Hey, I'm continuing in some next day. It is so hard to start recording after taking a break in a couple of days. I just cannot collect my thoughts, so I thought that I would just start recording and see where it goes. So, in the previous videos, we covered previous five videos. We covered others like I cannot think properly today. Um, we covered dating, we covered just general life stuff that happened to me that was really important, and mindset and self improvement stuff. And today we're gonna continue from mental health, which is kind of correlated at the start, but yeah, let's just start. It's a 40 point number 40, and I got huge progress with my anxiety, fears, and view of life. That my mind just stops working. So that what I mean here is previously I was really crippled by anxiety, by fears, where they just come up. They just controlled me because I didn't know what I can actually do about it. And with all of the techniques that I started to use, with all of the experience I started to have, it became easier to recognize that it's just an emotions and to notice them. And when you notice something, you can deal with that. That was actually the thing that I started from this 4 years ago. I started from something like that. Uh, I I started from a book Letting Go by David Hawkins, and it was a really good book to just notice the emotional levels. At that time, I used it specifically for that. And this year, like I reread that book later in the year, but even at the start, I started noticing how these emotions affected me. So I'm talking about fear, I'm talking about when I'm angry, when I am in apathy, not thinking, not feeling anything, and such things. Like, and when I'm actually feeling positive and excited to do something. So I started noticing how my states change, and that was a really good insight. The second thing that helped is reading Loving What Is by Byron Katie, and that was actually the process of handling these fears that I started noticing. Um, so the inquiries that I got from that book were just really helpful to see why my fears, why my statements, and what emotions these fears, these statements give to me. What stories do I have in my head? So I started to investigate that. I started going deeper, and it was a pretty good change in my life to start finally taking control of the emotional side, and not even taking control but being just aware. And it's not about me taking control of emotions, it's about stopping emotions trying to taking control of me. So I made a huge progress there. uh, I started noticing where I have these thoughts that are self-sabotaging to me. um, I may not always be able to do something with that still, but I noticed them, and that is a huge progress because before I just was on this track of my thoughts are what I am, and I cannot do anything about that. Even with 2-3 years of practicing meditation, it didn't work for me to being aware in the moment, and now I do. Yeah, I can go deeper into my thoughts now. I can explore all of these stories that I have, and it's really huge, and I see how it will help in the next year. Next point, I started doing mirror therapy. That means I'm saying I love you to myself in the mirror, and having like small talks, some conversation, some supportive conversation with myself. With myself. I haven't had a lot of practice talking to camera in the last few days, so yeah, that happens. So this mirror therapy is, I could do that before easily, so I never had the problem of going to the mirror as saying I love you to myself. But I haven't really felt anything, so it was just words. Didn't have any feelings attached to it. I didn't believe them, maybe. So it was just some random words. And in the course of this coaching, after a couple of calls, and it just clicked with me after I talked with Andy, how we were exploring some pretty painful moment for me when I was doing self-harm previously, and all that tied to it, all the depression side. And I thought I handled these emotions before, but it seems I didn't, and they were still there suppressed. And so when we uncovered them, it was like a door to my inner, to my something deep inside me was open, and I just had the desire to go to the mirror and talk to myself, and I did that, and I just had such an intense waterfall of emotions. I cried there for half an hour maybe. I could finally feel that I was talking to myself. It started meaning a lot to me, and I think it really helped me to go deeper into myself and to have that support to go through hard periods of last couple of months when I had some breakdowns. So it was such an awesome thing that I could finally feel that I was telling myself that I love me. I'm really glad it happened finally. Next one. I continued having session with my psychologist for this whole year. Yeah, that's just an accomplishment I wanted to notice. It's hard to notice progress in these things, in handling my past, handling something that's deep inside of me and affects me. But slowly but steadily, I'm doing some progress there. And just the main achievement here is just don't quit, because for months there seems to be no progress, or it's really hard, or I didn't want to show up when it was really hard, but I still did every time, and that is something to congratulate myself on, because that after some time really helped, really started giving me something. Okay, next one, with meditations. Yeah, I was able to do 1 hour meditations multiple times, almost every day for some periods of time, and almost every day have some sort of meditation into it. So there was a period when I just did 1 hour meditations, specifically sitting down and trying to be mindful. Now, it didn't work all of the time. I was overwhelmed by thoughts, but just the intention of doing that, I think it helped me a lot. And just to practice it, it felt really good. If I couldn't do 1 hour meditations, because it was one of the biggest goals of the day, if I wanted to do that. But at least 10 minutes meditation I did. Later, I stopped doing meditation specifically, but I created a practice of morning meditations. When I'm having breakfast, there is the I just focus on it. So I started having food meditations when I focus on food and what happening around me, and I think it's a cheat code to meditations, because it's so easy to focus on what you're doing, right now. What do you feel? How it smells? How it feels? The taste of the food, and it helps to just be mindful and notice the sounds around you, how you feel, and it just expands from there. So it's just a really quick solution to start meditation really quick. So yeah, almost every day I have some sort of meditation now. That's why I stopped doing specifically them, because I kind of have them in my life now. Next one. I went through 3 big breakdowns. I learned a great deal from each of them, and I used each of them to make my life better afterwards. So the first breakdown, that was at the start of the year, was yeah, it triggered me to finally go on forums and take myself, like I was already doing something from this previous year, but now I had an accountability. I went to the forums, I registered there, and I started sharing my story. Second one was when I was in Armenia, when I had to sacrifice everything. Back then I was clinging too great to my structures. They gave me a lot of just the motivation to move forward, some control in my life. I needed that then. And when I had to move to Armenia, I just sacrificed all of these structures. And after half a month there, and being alone and being like leaving a lot of stuff behind, it just all collapsed on me, and I had a couple of days of really bad state there. And after that, it's just became much better. I started working even harder on my goals. I started putting in more effort. I started being more positive. I started brainwashing myself with positivity, with podcasts and all. I made this tattoo because of that period, immediately after recovering from that breakdown. So it changed my life for the better. And the last one I had late in this last year, when I just maybe overwhelmed myself, and I was scared in the middle of a coaching. I wasn't doing enough. I just couldn't. I felt extreme panic in with myself, that I cannot trust my thoughts anymore, because I knew the solutions already. I was knowledgeable enough to know what I can do to fix the problem, to that could help me, but I just couldn't do that. For some reason, my mind just decided to not follow. So it was a huge dissociation from my thoughts. Like, I knew what I had to do to recover, but I just couldn't find a way to do that, to convince myself. And so it was like my mind just went against me, and it created a huge paranoia in my head, and that for a couple of days I just thought I couldn't trust myself anymore, so I needed to reach out to other people. It seemed like a last lifeline. It turned out to be easier in the next days. Like I started recovering from that, and I started negotiating. So it gave me a lot. I started negotiating with myself to do at least something, and gradually increased that. I finally asked someone for help, like directly. That was a huge thing for me. So these breakdowns actually helped me a lot and changed me. And just having this notion that I can, with every new breakdown that you have, I think it just gives you the confidence that you can handle more and more of them, and more severe of them. So you just, it's kind of interesting that my last breakdown was about me not trusting myself, and I ended up trusting myself even more because of that. So that's a funny thing. Point 45. I stopped with porn completely, and for all this year I didn't need it, and I didn't look at it even once. I wouldn't say that was the huge achievement for me. It's just like I need to say that, give myself some credit for that. I didn't have porn addiction for maybe 2 years already, maybe 3 even, after starting my self-improvement journey 3 years ago. I almost immediately just switched off that. I just didn't care anymore. But there were moments, like some periods of couple of days, maybe a week, when I was returning there, and I used it as some part of self-medication, I think. And yeah, it wasn't really positive thing for me. Yeah, this year I just didn't care, and the moments even when I just wanted to masturbate, and to, because of something that was happening in my life, or like reliving some good moments in my life, or just the pressure of like frustration of having like no sex, no dating was too overwhelming. So I just did it without porn. So I just focused on feelings, and that is actually the huge thing for me, to switch off completely off that, and just being. I think it just helps being more present in, in everyday life, and especially in sex afterwards. And point 46, I created a more healthier relationship with video games. So I can tell a lot about that. That is probably my biggest addiction that I ever had in my entire life. I definitely had that the whole school, college time. I just was escaping in games, and I hated them because like I didn't even have fun in games. I just went there because I had nothing in my life. Later, it was kind of the same for a couple of years. In my first relationship, I was having a lot of time just spent on games, and yeah, it wasn't really good. So the only time I started recovering from that was actually after moving to Moscow, after starting my self-improvement journey also. But it still returned, and well, years later, and it's still in some way with me. And even this year I had a couple of periods when I just focused on, even not really good games, just addictive games that you need to log in every day and just do something. And I still felt trapped into that. So the main thing that happened here, the switch, is to trust myself here, to know that even if I go some periods when I became really addicted to some game, and it the period this year that was me just spending a lot of time on that just useless game. It went for 2 or 3 weeks, I guess, and then I just thought about that and like I don't need this thing. It doesn't add to my life. Like it's completely useless. And like the most time I went obsessed with game is 3 weeks, and then my conscience just decided like I'm just wasting this time now. I don't want to do that. So that gave me a lot of trust into myself that I can kind of handle this addiction, and a lot of just taking the games themselves easy, because I like playing games. Actually, I like the story there, I like the gameplay, and it gives me a lot of fun. But I always thought about them like, oh, every time I play game I felt guilty about that. I felt it takes my time. And the biggest switch at the end of the year actually was that if I extremely want to play some games, I can do that, even if it takes like a couple of days, maybe a week. Um, okay, then I need that, and I use that for relaxation. I use that for taking some pressure off myself as an unwinding period. And I still use them. Like right now I'm maybe playing games like a couple of hours a day, probably less, but like I can play a couple of hours someday, and I don't feel bad about that. It adds to my life. I feel it allows me to just do different things. At least I'm not beating myself up and making the situation even worse. So yeah, I got a lot more healthier with games. Yeah, I learned how to integrate them into my life, how to schedule that so it wouldn't affect me that much. Yeah, huge progress here. Okay, next category is social stuff. I'll try to cover it faster so we could. There's like 7 points here, 8. So we could handle that in 10 minutes. Let's go. Point 47. I learned to be more present in interactions with people. Yeah, that was adding to me handling my anxiety more. And even at the start of this year and before, definitely, whenever I was in some kind of interaction with people, when someone was around, maybe with the exception of my then girlfriend, that kind of different thing, I guess. Like I trust her and I know her so well. But any other person that is not with you a lot of times, I just became completely different person, and I couldn't feel anything in myself. I was completely consumed by anxious feelings, by trying to please someone, trying to make everyone love me, and all this bullshit. And I just tried to be present in interactions, and I made a huge progress out of that. Now I still get anxious, I still get nervous on dates and meetups and all of that, but I can just stop at some moment and ask myself, how do I feel in this moment? And if I don't like it, I can just leave or change something or adjust. That was a huge thing, to even consider the possibility that I am still exist when I am with other people. So that was something, I guess. Like I stopped, like I disappeared whenever people were around me, and now I am there and I can listen to myself. That is the main change here. With the start of my coaching, with some practice, I noticed that I can just extremely focus on what people are saying and trying to be like completely invested in them and try to find something that I can give them. So everyone suffers around me now because of my coaching obsession. That's fun. Yeah. Yeah, some words that people are saying, that comes up in dates usually, or even like I hear what people say completely as they say it, so I believe the words that come out of their mouth and not try to find something that stands behind the words. So usually we have our stories that someone tells. On dates, the perfect example is someone told me, "Oh, you're a nice guy," and before I would have like, "Oh, fuck, I'm a nice guy." Then that means I'm not attractive. That means I'm like, what? I need to be like sexy. But now it's just okay, yeah, I am, because I was acting like that, and I just like can accept that as a compliment or just as a fact, and can work with that. So I don't think that they meant something else, which they usually don't. So just noticing the reality and not getting lost in my stories. Next one, I started going on social events consistently, being less anxious among groups of people, and how to create a structure of what I want to practice there. I messed it up. Okay. So yeah, going to social events, that was one of my fears before, and now it doesn't take an effort at, like, it takes a little bit of effort because I'm still feeling anxiety, but it's easy. It's easy to go somewhere and spend a couple of times with people, and what helped creating a structure for this, so not being consumed by other people, but stating beforehand what I want to get from this meetup. So it can be like I want to practice speaking more, I want to practice listening, I want to practice just feeling what I feel, even among a crowd of 5 people. That's what I did at one of the times. Or just creating some time boundaries there. So stuff like that. Next point, I learned how to make friends if I want to. I tried different kinds of interactions with them. I tried hanging out, going out to bars, coaching, and just like texting more. That was a huge thing. So yeah, I never made friends specifically, and this at the end of this year, I specifically went out and I stopped hanging out because I didn't need it. I realized that I don't really need that still at the moment. I want to spend time on different things, but there was a month when we're still in contact, but I just made friends from even 2 guys there, just specifically by investing and being conscious about that. I went out with the idea of making friends, and I made friends. So just as a possibility now that I know how to do that, if I need to, it's a good thing. Just another tool if I need to use it at some point. Next, I improved the relationship with my friend that stayed in Russia. That is my ex-girlfriend, and yeah, we're now best friends, and I consider her my family. So close she is to me from my perspective. Yeah, we just I just consciously made efforts to support her. She supported me back, and I just kept in contact, kept putting in more and more and more there, and we just was we just were the best support of in this year, I guess. At least she was definitely my support, and I know for her it really means a lot that I support her. So I in I improved my already existing friendship, so that is cool to have as an experience. And it's cool to have someone that is that trustworthy, that wants to help you and all of that. So I basically made a best friend. Um, yeah, and the huge thing was to, because we are aiming for different goals, um, to just drop my expectations, my world for you, and just try to see what she wants and help her there. So that I think it's important for friendship. So I didn't try to find, before I had an ideal friend that is like completely mirror copy of me, so we could agree on everything and help and push each other. But I just realized that doesn't need to be like that. You can have completely different goals, but just want to help each other, to support each other, and it just what needed there. Next one, I built a better relationship with parents. Yeah, that was at the end of the year when I became more conscious about me and more relaxed. Most of the year I just ignored them. I didn't really liked just even talking with them before, and now I'm coaching them. So, and just like calling them once a week and just having this talk about what's happening, and yeah, that was just a great thing to notice. I don't have the I won't have a regret that I didn't do something there in the future if I would have. It's just a bonus, I guess. Like it wasn't something that I wanted to do, but it's good that I did that. No. Next one. I learned to handle my ego and reconnect with people that I left before. Yeah. What I mean by that is the girl that I saw here at the start when I just arrived in Serbia. I mean, I met a really awesome girl, but and we like were FVBs for a while, and then we just dropped because we were looking for. I didn't want to be just friends there. She didn't want to be anything but friends, and like yeah, we just split up uh, gracefully, but still. And I felt this like I kinda ready to have friends now, but it was such a thing in my mind, in my ego, just were telling me like you cannot reach her, like she needs to reach first, and a lot of these bullshit stories about uh, you cannot have some only friendship with some girl, you need to have something sexual there. And a couple of months ago, yeah, that was true, but even when I kind of trusted myself that I wanted only friendship, because there was a lot of trust there, and I would have gladly reconnected, which I did. Um, it was hard to finally send her the message, like being grateful. Like I just said how grateful I am, and I want to reconnect if she wants that too. And yeah, she wanted to, but just taking that first step took so much out of me. I was a battle with my ego that just created a lot of stuff that I was seeing that situation as I don't know how even to explain that. It's interesting how the stories inside, like I was like not being good to myself, not respecting myself or something like that. I had some kind of this story if I just reach out first. So yeah, I'm glad that I overcame this, and after that I realized that writing people that I haven't seen for haven't talked to with for months or even years, it's okay. Like I don't need to wait for them to write me first because that is an ego stroke. And I can just drop that and write them first by myself, and it doesn't matter this feeling of, oh, I waited for them for 5 years and they finally written me. Yeah, and you lost 5 years of like normal interactions with them. So the results here far outweigh the ego stroke. It just doesn't matter. Yeah, so I made contact with some of the other girls that I was seeing back in Russia, and yeah, we had a good converse. And the last one in social stuff, I went to bar alone, and I was going to meetups alone. So yeah, that was a huge thing for me. It was really scary, and I didn't do it much afterwards, but just the first time of going here in the country that I don't know their primary language. They speak English, yes, but somehow I thought in my head that I had to learn Serbian to go to the bar, which was bullshit. So I went there, just was there, and I was starting going to meetups alone, even. Yeah. Um, yeah, good stuff in social. I'm happy with what I covered now. It's went on for a long time, but yeah, and the remains is a couple of kind of interesting topics about. I will not tell them. They will be in the next video. So if you want to, watch it. If you don't want to, don't watch it. Okay, I'm gonna end it here. Have a nice day, folks.